count. It's live. Genuinely curious as to why you're here at 1 a.m. Shy in the chat already. I can tell you it's because you're in Turkey. Otherwise, you'd be here at 2 p.m. So I don't know if that helps, but welcome all the same to you and anybody else. This doesn't have to be a live thing. If you are here live, we can talk. It's great. That's the whole point sometimes. But this will also be something that I edit after the fact. I just realized I didn't turn on like half the lights in my studio right now. I seem to look okay, other than still red as ever, thanks to my iPhone. I use the Blackmagic camera app. So either there's a red shift on that, but if you look at everything else that's red in the screen, it's not like overly. So I'm starting to think I'm just red. This is really affecting my self-image. So welcome to Red Ryan. I wanted to do this video, this live stream. Oh, which is what I was in the middle of explaining. Boy, I'm just making this hard for myself now. Hold on. It's one of those jokes that gets funnier every time you do it. I wanted to make this video, and since I am doing it live, because I just want to get it out there, I am going to edit a version of it for the podcast feed. So if you miss this, if you're not here right now, who cares? Maybe I edited this part out and none of it matters anyway. Maybe to you, I've only done this once. It was a perfect introduction and now we're here. But I should have done this weeks ago, because if you haven't been around for Tetris Tuesday, which Shy in the chat has, and has confirmed that the joke and/or jokes are very funny, in case you're wondering. So yes, if you've just been waiting for videos to drop on the channel, the last one might have been like our Christmas card from, I don't even think that came out on New Year's Day, just before New Year's Day. So it's been a month at least. If you have been showing up for the Tetris Tuesdays, that's probably the first thing I would mention. If you're really wondering what's up, in fact, a lot of the information I'm going to talk about, I've been pegging onto the back end of Tetris Tuesday just because it's where I'm at lately. So if you haven't been around for those, and let's face it, nobody is, you wouldn't have known that the reason I'm not releasing edited pieces lately is because I've been making a ton of edited pieces lately. Chasers Season 4 is in full production. In fact, let me tell you a little bit about the path that series has taken, or that season even, just because Chasers began as me kind of digging into my comic book cards and talking about them and actually looking up a lot of the history and what was going on behind the scenes, which back then I would have never known because it was pre-internet, so we just didn't know things. It was crazy. But that was Season 1. So that series started out just me wanting to open up cards with my daughter because it was something we had done anyways. That's not true. Going back even farther, I was like, surely this still happens, because it was something I did in the 90s, you know, and I was like, surely this is still going on. I'll just figure out where it's going on and how and jump right in. Not possible for many different reasons, most of which being that it's just completely different. So I bought some cards from the 90s and was like, I can open these up with Evelyn, and that's what we did. And I was like, these would make kind of a fun video series. So after I did Season 1, which was like, where did these cards come from? Who was involved in making them? Season 2 was, in fact, just Evelyn and I opening up, I think, Marvel Series 5 or something like that, or finishing opening up Marvel Series 5, because that's the one we were in the middle of. And there's a ton of episodes. I think it went over 20 that season, just because we were still finding our footing a little bit, which has also been the tack of this channel in general. It's like, at first it was hugely about just getting stuff out, like being a video factory of sorts. And it was very useful from a creative standpoint, from a satisfaction standpoint, just to not sit there and think about it and wait until it was perfect, you know, in the ether, and then release it, because that was doing nobody any good, let alone myself. So Chasers, in its evolution from being one of those initial videos that's like, let's just get this out, get this done. Season 3 was probably not much different than that. There were fewer episodes. I think we had a better handle on, and maybe a better subject for, with Marvel Masterpieces 1993, Series 2, I think it was, right? Less cards per pack, per episode, per whatever set. So it was just easier to get a handle on, I think, for that particular season. Season 4, which is what I'm producing madly at this point, like had to tear myself away from to do this stream. Was like, I just got to do this. I got to tell everybody what's going on. It's not fair, certainly to the patrons. It's not fair to anybody that's around for anything more than a Tetris Tuesday. No offense, Shy. Season 4 of Chasers has it started out as kind of more of season 3, which again, it is a fine line with this channel. I do need to maintain because I'm doing so many things, because this is kind of still a passion project. You know, it's my professional life has changed drastically within the last year, even, I would say. We manage the apartments where we live, so I've at one point or another had like 2 to 3 to 4 jobs, depending on how you look at it. But went in-house for this company pre-COVID, and then when COVID hit, went out-house. I got laid off by the same company twice. That's something I should mention. So with Chasers, season 4 has been kind of the awakening of sorts in many different ways. Number one, because it's DC focused this time around, and we've done purely Marvel. Have we done? Yeah, everything's been Marvel. I might have like spoken about some tangents here and there, because I do have non-Marvel cards that I collected in the 90s, but I didn't bring them into the show in any appreciable manner, I want to say. So yeah, the fact that we're doing DC's Cosmic cards is new. The universe is somewhat new. We're kind of learning, Evelyn especially, not to spoil anything, learning the difference between the two in some ways, learning where she already knew stuff about DC, and just both of us together know far less about DC, kind of like the world just knows far less about DC because they've been, you know, the underdog in certain times. So Chasers season 4 has been fun in that way, but I've gone off the deep end again for what it's worth, especially for a series that, again, doesn't rake in the views. Like I started its own channel because I thought it was eating into whatever the algorithm was doing on Ryan Runs proper. And I still think that was the right decision, but it did not catch. And there's a few things I could have done better. I wasn't surfacing it on the Ryan Runs channel in the latest. I know some of you frequent the latest playlist, or if you go to the channel homepage, the latest playlist is up top, and the Chasers episodes weren't going on there. So they will this time around. They will still be on the Chasers channel, but also I think it was still stuck in, it's the oldest of all the series I do. It was like kind of one of the first ideas I had for content that wasn't games focused, because that's kind of how this whole thing started. So it shows its age in a lot of ways, and I think one of the ways it was showing that age was in that it hadn't evolved even from the second season, which, again, we're just talking about season 2 and 3 at this point. But I have put in a lot more work to make it both visually interesting. You know, if like just the cards don't do it for you, which they kind of do it for me, which is part of the reason I didn't spruce it up too much, is I'm like, I'm just enjoying these cards. This show is for also people that would be just enjoying these cards. But it's a strange in between, and this I've talked about before also, because like the card space on YouTube is like breakneck, and again, way more pointed at what the hobby is now. So people are ripping through boxes at breakneck speeds. Every card is shiny. You know, it's like, what if the 90s never ended in the card space? Everything is shiny. Everything's a collectible. Like but then it's not, because it is. Get it? Things even come pre-slabbed in some cases, which is great. It is like a collector's dream, and those videos are a lot of fun to watch for me, but I can't afford to enter that space. I don't know if I want to enter that space. Certainly not in that way. So I'm doing something different. Evelyn and I talk still a lot. That's not going away. I'm doing that thing that I do where I'm not going to change it. You know, I could go into debt. I could, or even just creatively be more like those other videos and probably get more views in some way. But what's the point? You know, so I'm doing that thing where I don't cater, and maybe it never hits, and I'm still happy. But this season, because I was enjoying what we were doing so much, and after the fact when I'm editing these videos, like looking up some of the things we're talking about, because the cards have like these trivia on the back that we're reading through. And again, for characters I have never heard of before. I would say most of the cards we do in an episode, I've never heard of these characters, these people, these comics to some extent. It's a blast. It's a ton of fun. So when I'm editing them, I'm like going through and looking up the actual comics that they're referencing. And I'm like, why don't I just drop these in the episode? Plus just lots of weird, wacky, like music hooks. And again, I don't want to spoil too much, but I'm putting way more work into this season, and in waves too. It's like the first wave. In fact, if you want to sign up for Patreon, episode 1 of Chasers is there right now. And that happened like a month ago. But I have gone back since, and I did that like 6 episodes deep. And now I've gone back and re-edited the output files. Like I even had them uploaded. I'm going to have to take them down or replace the files depending. And I'm going through and dropping these comics in, like putting in these audio hooks, just filling it out with a bunch more stuff that I think makes it a more entertaining thing. Because also it's the stuff that I'm looking up while I'm editing it. In fact, I've started putting in editor notes, which is kind of a special, fun joke bit for comic related media anyway. So, because I'm an editor, but not that type of editor technically, but I am. Shy in the chat, every day for card scalpers seems to be a field day from how you're talking about it. Yes, yeah. We have a local card shop, and it's like collectibles, and like from the outside looking in, I'm like, no way, like this, and it popped up, and it's literally like less than a block from my house. So I'm like, oh, this is crazy. So I go in, and this has happened to me like 2 or 3 times now. In fact, in my hometown, which is still just 30 minutes away, where I used to buy these cards in the 90s, a new card shop popped up, same thing like it did here. And I'm like, oh, what the heck? So I walk in and it's like Pokemon and Magic basically, which no shade. I don't think I have any Pokemon cards. I have some Magic cards. I'm not looking down on in any way. I'm just saying that appears to be the focus. I can go into, sports cards are still all the rage, especially if you like getting them in local shops. I cannot buy a Marvel card in a local shop for the life of me. They just do not exist. So season 4 is shaping up to be great. I love it so far. I've loved making it more than any other season. And I've tentatively got the first Wednesday in March as a goal for launch. I don't know if that's going to make it, because these will come out every Wednesday like they did last time. So don't hold me to that necessarily, but I'm working like mad to get there, because I do realize that, again, the content, every other piece of content on the channel has kind of dropped off while I've been doing this, and it's all behind the scenes, unless you're on the Patreon, and then you'll get a few bits and bobs there. I will put more up there as well. How about that? If anything, I feel like I spread things around earlier on in the channel, so I'm probably a little bit more laser focused than I have been. It was like cinematic was a focus there for a bit, except for Tetris Tuesdays. Those are just like clockwork every Tuesday. Coming up on episode 80, I want to say, this week. And since we have got to 2007 at this point, where I was actively gaming with my Xbox 360, I'm just using my versions of the games. And that did also prompt me to do a video that I've been meaning to do since this channel began. Again, very games focused when this channel began. I was like, I wanted to do a life in games type video where I talked about where it began, all the games I've played throughout my life, and how it led up to pretty much exactly where I'm at with Tetris Tuesdays and playing those Tetrises that came out live while I was actively playing games. And I've scripted out more than half of it. It's just that I've also, are you noticing a theme? I've gone off the deep end, and I'm like, this is good. I don't want to act like I'm a victim of my own circumstance over here. I am happy where the channel is at, because I think it is and was time to move past, in a lot of respects, the factory nature of it. Getting the video out isn't good enough anymore. Like I've been through that. I want to put out stuff that's good. I want to take time with the videos at this point, and I'm happy to do so, because I also think it's it shows, but I also think it shows in the views. Cinematic, which it was, again, really the going concern of this main channel, I want to say, for a few, especially when I was getting them out weekly. Pretty much the moment I started spending time bolstering my scattered thoughts with clips from the movie, especially ones that I liked and stuff like that, the videos started to perform better. So I'm glad where the channel is at as far as that goes, as far as taking more time on stuff to make it better. You know, no regrets, especially with the Chasers episodes that are going to come out. Again, even if they just sit there and there's like, what are we doing over here? 9 views, 7 views, 5 views, 5 views, 5 views, 1 view. Go watch a muscular 4-pack of 1993's Marvel masterpieces, Chasers Season 3, Episode 6, if you want that video to have more than 1 view. Even Season 2, which has been out for months now, I think it's topping out at 22 views on an episode. So why am I doing it? I believe in it. I enjoy it. You know, it doesn't have to be more than that, but if you're wondering why exactly I am as crazy as I am. I think you can ruin your upload schedule a bit to spend time on a big project, and finding a large audience is hard. Yeah. And again, I'm so, I don't say I'm bad at catering to the algorithm. I just don't want to. Like, creatively it is, and some people find this balance, and I'm never calling other people out. It's just, you know, it is a balance. You know, I run a Patreon because I do realize on some level that I have to make some amount of money doing this. I'm in a very privileged position managing these apartments, so it affords me a lot of flexibility that I wouldn't otherwise have. But yes, it makes it difficult to find a large audience because I'm not that guy who's going to sit there and work on his thumbnails for a full hour just to get, you know, you can do A/B testing on YouTube now to see I guess I'm accessing the algorithm in that way, so maybe that's an advantage, but that YouTube gives me more things to feed myself into the algorithm doesn't really make me feel any better. I would rather Patreon took off. You know, I would rather I just found the people, and it doesn't have to be a large audience is the thing. That's never been the thing. I'm not like sitting here hoping to get rich in any sense of the word. The more people I find that are just actual people that are like, yeah, I want this to be out in the world, and showing up for the streams and liking and subscribing counts. I don't want to just throw it on the Patreon people. So thank you, Shy, obviously. Keeping that large audience in check is even harder. I guess by in check, if you mean bringing in the numbers also brings in the jerks. Yeah, I guess I would have to get involved in that. But I guess, you know, larger channels just have people that do that. They have mods, you know. I'm still at the point where I can answer every comment that I get on every video and interact with people on a, you know, I don't have any automated responses or you know, AI hooks, let's say, in anything. It's just me. Like, you get me, period, all the time. So yes, that's why stuff hasn't been popping off on the channel maybe as much lately, but I'm much more excited about the videos that I am producing. I still like Tetris Tuesdays. I get it. If it's not your thing, I don't think you're going to start showing up just to say hi or anything like that. But ask Shy. Like, they're awesome. I mean, Shy's tuning in again at like 1 a.m. Or later. But just the things I find out from some of those games, and the kind of the breadth of knowledge that it's giving me about Tetris without the skill, let's say, even still, it's awesome. You know, these are all things that I'll continue to do no matter how many people show up, because I'm enjoying them so much. It is the thing that I finally found kind of in my life that I like doing. Like this, I still consider this a day job. You know, it takes up, you know, time on the weekends as well. But I only do the apartment thing nights and weekends, so I consider this my day job. Like, I am at this computer, and Chasers has been this strange. I don't have a super large attention span, let's say. You know, like, I feel like I can go heads down on a video for like 1 to 2 hours at a time, and which is probably normal. That's normal, right? And then I got to take a break. That's normal. You're right. Okay, I just figured that out. For this season on Chasers, I've been like, I will just over 8-hour days on these things, because I'm like I said, I've edited these 6 episodes, and then I'm like, oh, I should go back and do this, and it kind of becomes a feature of the show. So I'll go back all the way to episode 1, watch it again, and insert these things as I'm going. And then that's happened like 2 or 3 times at this point. So I've just been combing over these episodes so many times to add these things where I'm like, okay, now I'm doing this, now I'm doing this, and I'm only on episode 4 so far. So, and I had to tear myself away, again, like I said, to come here and do this. I guess the reason I never really got to working on my YouTube channel is because I don't have the flexibility. But I had a lot of spare time in summer and I didn't do anything with it. So I'm never going to fault you, Shy. The only thing I regret, because regrets are kind of like, what good does it do me to sit there and stew on a regret? Like absolutely nothing. I don't mind having them necessarily because, you know, I can make course corrections. And my big regret would be that I just didn't start sooner. You know, especially since I was around when YouTube was invented. You know, like, and for years after that, I feel like if you just got into it, like you didn't have to produce or you know, you were just there in the early days. Like what else was there going to be? I already had production experience at that point. If I had sat down on YouTube with, yes, old school production experience, but still, you know, and still not throwing any shade, like YouTube is fantastic for low production and democratization, you know, like how it opened up the world to people without that production experience. But I felt like I could have done something, you know, I could have stood out even with the creative projects that I had going on at the time, you know, like the games podcast, the movies podcast, stuff like that I've been doing. It was still, I feel like, after the gold rush, so to speak. So everything I do is after the gold rush. So now all I have to depend on is me, is this. So if this isn't doing it for you, no worries. I've been there as well. So this went places. Is there anything I haven't talked about at this point? Yeah, just if you're here for cinematic, if you're here for a game in the life, this is already the life you live, because I haven't done an episode of those for quite some time. I would say mostly for the cinematic crowd, which I made some friends and have probably, again, those videos are still climbing. I don't know what the algorithm's doing with them. I don't know if they've found people like me. I will find a series, go back to episode 1 and just, you know, treat it like a podcast and off we go. I need to find more people like me is what I need to. I don't know if that's what the algorithm is doing for cinematic. If it is, great. And I suppose you have a lot of content to sift through already. But if you're done and waiting for the next, it's coming, I promise. In fact, it'll still be on Tai Chi Master, which it's been killing me just to sit on that movie because I've watched it and it was so great. Like I have things to say about it. It's all scripted out. I just haven't sat down to spit it out. So it's coming, it's on the way. I've just, rather than piecemeal chasers and cinematic, I want to get chasers out the door. I don't want to move that camera. That's why this is all on my iPhone still. I don't want to move that camera until I have wrapped Chasers Season 4. I've also been doing some upgrades around the office, which have been fun. In fact, if this sounds better as of last live stream, so last Tuesday it would have been, yeah, I finished this up on Monday. It's because I finally soundproofed this entire corner of the garage because I could still hear, especially live, because I don't run through any sort of processing to get that mic out there. Like I could hear it still bouncing off the walls a little bit. Like it was very slight. I don't think it still sounded that echoey. Like you wouldn't, there's enough things on here to break up the sound waves that I don't think you ever would have tuned in and been like, why is he in an empty room or something like that. But if you listen now ever so slightly, like it's a lot deader in here in a good way. So that was fun, but that also went with the monitors were a new purchase, and I did do a video on Patreon. There's a few things on there on the Patreon where I'm like, this doesn't need to be a full video. Also, I don't want to spend the full amount of time on it. So if you're looking for like old school Ryan runs where it's just, I should do a video on this and it's better to have it out there than not, go check out the Patreon. Speaking of proof of life, I'm alive. I'm still making videos. None of the series that are on my channel are over with unless I've told you they're over with. So stay tuned for more of them, for more of these. And again, if you're just looking to stop by and say hi, I'm still around every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Come say hi to Shai and I. Oh, it's got a nice ring to it. And thank you. I feel like I always start to trail off towards the end of these because I get tired. So thank you for tuning in any way. Stay tuned for more inside baseball, like all the way inside this baseball things here on Ryan Runs. All right. I'm going to call it for today. Thanks for showing up, Shai, and anybody else that did. And especially, like I said, after the fact, this will be edited into a much more cohesive piece and uploaded to all of the podcast feeds, which I should have mentioned this if you are on any of the feeds that Spotify has fingers in, because YouTube is its own thing. I have to upload the videos here to YouTube itself. I do primarily consider myself a YouTube channel at this point, but I do upload these all to the podcast feed on Spotify or Anchor. It's Spotify now for sure. And then that feeds out, but not the video. The video is live on Spotify, but it feeds out the audio to everywhere else. So if you are on one of those audio feeds, if you prefer the stuff I do audibly, you may be excited to know that Chasers Season 4 will make it to the podcast feed this time around. Well, Season 1 I actually put out on the podcast feed as well, because I think it was more, there was a lot more in there about the history of the cards and whatnot, so I thought it worked, even though I didn't play for the audio extremely well when I started going through the cards themselves. I tried to get better at that. I think I did get better at it for Season 2 and 3, but it didn't seem good enough to again surface on the podcast feeds in audible format. So I think we've figured it out for Season 4, and we've done that by number 1, talking a lot more. So if you're into talking, let me tell you, Chasers Season 4 is where it's at. But again, I find it entertaining. I think Evelyn and I keep it pretty darn interesting the whole time. And when we get to the cards, I feel like we're playing for audio a lot better than we ever have before. So Chaser Season 4 will go up on the podcast feeds as well as the video feeds wherever they are. So if that's where you're at, thank you as well. I think is my main point, what I'm headed for there. So you're all great and should all like and subscribe. Does Spotify, like, do the podcast things do liking it? I don't know. Rate? That's a thing that whatever, I don't know. Whatever I don't know, Ryan Runs 2026. See you guys.